Oh, good morning, everyone. So it's about 9 o'clock on my virtual side of the world. And so we're just going to go ahead and start. Let me pull up the presentation. That would be a good start. Can everyone see this all right? Okay. Thumbs up. Okay, thank you. So yeah, hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Teen Speak, Adolescent Motivational Interviewing. It's a three-part workshop series. My name is Laura Knapp, and this funding was made possible by the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, OJJDP, and the State of Alaska's Department of Health and Social Services. So thanks to both for supporting tribal communities in Alaska. Again, my name is Laura Knapp. I am the Outreach Coordinator and Web Guru, currently hosting on behalf of the Resource Basket program here at Rural Cap. So we're just very, very happy that you are all here with us today, and it's truly a huge pleasure to have our guest facilitator, Jenny Baker, the Adolescent Health Program Coordinator for the State of Alaska. So some Zoom technical housekeeping items to cover. Please be sure to check your computer speakers for audio. The symbol is in the red color, shows that your mic is on mute. And when you're ready to speak, just click that same symbol again, located on the far left bottom of your computer to unmute yourself. And well, if you're joining by phone, please note that this is not a toll-free number. And yes, and if you're on the phone and you're ready to speak, just go ahead and click *6 and then *6 again to mute yourself. Also be mindful and patient with us that I, Jenny, or any one of us may encounter some delays in audio and or visual feedback. So thank you so much for your time and patience. And also to save bandwidth, it's really, well, we suggest closing out other window tabs while viewing the presentation slides. And you're always free to turn off your video camera as well to save bandwidth. Yeah, so just go ahead and click on the left video icon at the bottom of your screen when we're going through the slides. But then during the group activities, we really encourage you to turn your video camera back on. So thank you so much. Please note that we are recording all 3 Teen Speak sessions. All recordings will be published on our website and also via our YouTube channel. So yes, take advantage of that for a viewing opportunity. We also want you to utilize the chat box features and the reaction button. So, you know, the thumbs up and all the cool things there. Yeah, so again, it's located at the bottom of your screen. So feel free to take advantage of that. And also send along messages to anyone in this virtual room, to Jenny, to me, to whoever you would like. So one of Rural Cap's program is the Resource Basket. And our mission with Resource Basket is to continue supporting Alaskan Native communities and service providers like you guys in front of me, as you continue to grow healthy, successful, and culturally connected Alaskan youth. We are a training and technical assistance program under Rural CAP, which is short for Rural Alaska Community Action Program. And we're basically all here to support you working with youth and elders. We offer services where people have the opportunity to reach out to other youth serving partners and tribal organizations. We provide online training, webinars like this one, and other useful resources and information. We continue to provide distance support by phone and email, especially during this pandemic time. We offer statewide and regional training, all currently done in virtual format. We are also promoting that peer-to-peer training and exchanges, and are always finding unique strategic virtual ways to improving the lives of Alaska Native youth. So we're basically here to reduce risk factors for youth delinquency by promoting healthy adolescent relationships and encouraging folks like you to learn, well, why we're here, to learn the best communication practices when working with youth. So thanks to Jenny Baker for facilitating this unique workshop series, because, you know, she's pretty remarkable. Jenny Baker is an adolescent health project coordinator for the Adolescent Health Program within the Women's, Children, and Family Health section of Alaska's Department of Health and Social Services. She has committed interest in primary prevention, community engagement, and social justice. She's received a Bachelor of Arts degree from Alaska Pacific University in 2009. Currently, she supports the advisory and community intervention efforts of the Youth Alliance for a Healthier Alaska and coordinates the programmatic and evaluation efforts of the teen and unintended pregnancy prevention program. She has previously worked in the juvenile justice and youth enrichment fields in Oregon and in Alaska. She has been in Alaska for 14 years, and she is a wife, a mom, a musician who loves recreating in the outdoors. So we've all invited you to join us to discuss why having a trusted adult is really one of the most important factors for preventing and reducing risk behaviors. And we also want to help, identify risk behaviors that teens engage in, and techniques for, appropriate techniques for how to talk to teens about risky behaviors, to empower them to make really good life decisions. And lastly, of course, to promote that open-ended questions, affirmations, reflections, and all of that, just in order to communicate with our teens. So at this time, I would love our dear Jenny Baker to kick us off with a special land acknowledgement. So go ahead, Jenny.
I'll be doing just the Dina Ina Homeland Unceded Territories acknowledgement, but I encourage you all in your introductions to let us know where you are. I am here in service of and in recognition of the Indigenous peoples that were here way before me. I'm offering here tools in hopes to build better understanding and gratitude for where our youth are at. But this is not the only tool and is not the end all be all for communication skills. So I will be looking to you all for your expertise and knowledge in the work that you are already doing and doing incredibly well. as an outwardly expressing white woman, I am here moving towards equity and decolonization. That is a huge part of the work that I do, and I'm not here to tell you how to do or be with your youth. I just have found some of these tools very helpful in many relationships, including the one with my 4-year-old daughter and the one with my husband and my friends and family. And I encourage you to share as you move forward in this training together with your own expertise. And I'm here with gratitude and respect as we move forward. So thank you very much for allowing me to chat with you and being here, being present, and bringing all that it is that you do in your work. So thank you. First, if we could, looking into the chat box also, because I know Seraphima does not have audio, but if we could put in and I'm sure, I think that Seraphima can hear us, but we might not be able to hear her. But the instruction is for our introduction real quickly before, if we do kind of a different introduction, is to just encourage you to think about in the chat box what is one word that described you as a teen, just to kind of build that empathy to begin with. So if you could think of your name, your maybe who you work for, land acknowledgement, and a word that described you as a teen. And if you want to say it outwardly instead of typing it, you could totally do that. Anyone wish to start? And if you can, maybe what we could do is we can popcorn a little bit, if you don't mind. So I'll call on someone and then the next person can call on someone. Becca, would you mind going first?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Becca. I work for the Organized Village of Kasan. I live in Kasan, which is the traditional boundaries of the Kaigani Haida. A word for me as a teen, like anguished. Is there a stronger word than anguished? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna pass it on to Sabrina.
Can you guys hear me? Awesome. I'm Sabrina Marconi. I am currently working and living on Prince of Wales Island, just like Becca. And I live in Hollis, and give respect to the Haida and Tlingit people who have been here for many, many years. I would say, I think confused is a good word to describe me when I was a teenager. And I think I got all the questions. I will pass it off to Bobby.
Wait, who do you work for?
Oh, sorry. I work for the Southeast Island School District, and I'm hired through AmeriCorps. So I'll pass it off to Bobby.
Hey everyone, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So my name is Bobby Dushkin and I'm from Sandpoint, Alaska, and I live here. I'm working with the youth community for the QT tribe, and we are on Unanga or Aleut grounds, and I'm part Aleut, so I'm here supporting my people. Very excited to start this training.
Well, welcome, Bobby. Thank you.
On the one word, I think to describe when I was younger was mischievous. I think that's a pretty good word. And I'll pass it to Molly Miller.
Hi, my name is Molly Miller, and I work for the Kodiak Area Native Association as a prevention specialist, and this is Alutiiq or Supiaq land that I live on. I was actually born and raised here. And a word to describe me when I was a teen is nonconformist. And I am going to pass this on to Tori Frank because she is a coworker.
Hey everybody, my name is Tori Frank, and yet, like Molly said, I work here with her in Kodiak. We work for the local Native Association here. I'm originally from Fairbanks in Eagle Village. I'm Hannah Thabascan, and I've been living here in Kodiak though for the last couple of years. And I think one word to describe me as a teen would probably be naive. And then I will popcorn on over to Wendy.
Hi, my name's Wendy Moe. My profession is a paralegal, but I had the pleasure of talking to Jennifer last week in a moment of crisis in my life with my family, and she invited me to this workshop, and I'm grateful for that. And my one word would be challenging as a teenager.
Thanks, Wendy. Let's see, Seraphima, did you would you like to put in the chat box your introduction? And while you're, perfect. Thank you. I'm gonna read it. So hello, Seraphima. Aleut, work for tribal government, St. Paul, behavioral aid, originally from St. George, was about 45 minutes, or miles, sorry, from St. Paul. Adult children and grandchildren, and you've been working with youth in the community, and your one word is protective of your siblings. Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. And it's interesting how, depending on our expectations of ourselves that have been placed on ourselves, sometimes we define ourselves negatively as teens, and obviously putting one word on ourselves is really not accurate because we are so, like, the development is so long. So thank you for being willing to take on this challenge. Leona, did you go, or Henrik? How about Leona? Thanks for sharing, Wendy.
Hello. I'm not sure if you could hear me or see me. Our internet's really sketchy. Okay, so my name is, you can hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
we can hear.
My name is Leona Starr. I work for Tanana Chiefs Conference, and I work with youth ages 0 to 21 here in Huslia. The one word that I would describe myself as a teen would probably be lost. So that's why I enjoy working with youth to help in any way that I can. So I'm grateful to be here. And I'm unsure if I forgot anything. Was that it?
I think you got it all.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'm going to stop my video because our internet's too slow. So
I understand.
letting you know.
Henry, would you like to go?
Yeah.
All right.
My name is Henrik Brandt. Born and raised here in Nome, Alaska. I'm a Nukbak. This is the Nukbak lands. My mom's Lisa Yelana. I don't know how many of you might know her, but I work with Coeric Wellness, and one word to describe me as a teen: awkward. Thanks.
Those are all wonderful responses. I I think I fit all of them back when I was 16. But yeah, you know, before we actually dive into Jenny's activities and other deep-seated emotions and conversations, I think we should kickstart with a really fun group activity. It's really quick, and you can also do this with your youth via virtually. It's safe, and I'm going to give everyone 30 seconds to fetch something that is either yellow or grab something that's really wacky, weird, or something that's just darn cute. So you have 30 seconds to grab one of those things in your current living environment. When the time is up, bring it back for show and tell, and each person will have about 30 seconds to a minute or so to share what they have. So I'm going to set my timer for 30 seconds. Ready, set, go. You're at 10 seconds. Okay, countdown, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, 30 seconds up. Who would love to be the brave one to go first? Okay, Sabrina, take it away.
So it doesn't have to be yellow. It can just be wacky or weird, right?
Anything you want.
So here are my baby kittens, and they're working with me today.
Oh,
Because I'm currently doing this conference from my bedroom, and they are just causing chaos and running around like wrestling each other right now. And they're paper eaters, so they're eating the corners of my Teen Speak workbook, and that's my wacky and weird thing is my kitties.
oh, adorable. I love cats too. And yeah, anyone else would like to go?
I can go. So, like I said, I work with kids, so I found a marker, a smell good marker. There it is. And were we supposed to describe it, or was that it?
Yeah, I smell pineapple and lemon.
Yes, they love these too, by the way.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing.
I love those things too. It totally reminds me of my childhood.
Yeah, my daughter calls them her sniffing markers.
Okay, who's up next? Becca, since you're up there, let's go ahead.
Okay, sure. Okay, I got my shelf-stable heavy whipping cream, which I very gooberly bring everywhere with me because I like heavy whipping cream in my coffee and in my beer and basically in everything. So I've always got my shelf-stable heavy whipping cream in my purse.
Oh, that's too funny. Wendy?
So I've got this little miniature tree that my 15-year-old made out of clay, and it's she gave it to me because I love the color green, and so yeah, it's maybe not too wacky, but a little wacky.
Let's see. Henrik, go ahead.
All right, so I found my license plate in the house. I was buying a car, and I got the license plate shipped here. Just waiting on the car.
Nice.
Can't really drive the license plate, that's for sure.
Yeah. Tori, would you like to go up next?
Sure. So my sort of yellowish thing is this giraffe. Which comes with a bit of a story. When I was like really, really young, I had all of those, those kind of cheap plasticky looking safari animals that come in a tube. I had a set of those. And one day after leaving the library with my father, I realized that I didn't have the giraffe when I got into the truck. But I didn't realize this until we were almost home, and we live in a community, Two Rivers, just outside of Fairbanks. And so anyway, I started crying and crying, and Dad was like, okay, well, we'll go run some more errands, and we'll go back and look at the places, and we'll see if we can find it. And went back to town and spent like hours retracing our steps and me looking at all of the little places I'd sat throughout the day. And then finally I went and I got back in the truck after one of those stops, and I went to put on my hat that was sitting on the dashboard, my little winter beanie. And I remembered then that I put the giraffe into his cave in the hat. And so now it's this kind of ongoing gag between my dad and I where he's like, here, I have your giraffe, you know? And so yeah, it's been a thing for a while.
Oh, well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Molly, would you care to share?
I'm also at home, and it was close by, but little origami pelican. Something when I was a kid, I was really into origami. So this year for Christmas, I got an origami book, and they have all the characters have these really googly eyes. So this is something that I made.
Stunning looking. I love it.
Yeah, the tail is incredible. It's like little
Yeah,
teeny-
that's what's stunning.
The paper makes them look really cool. They're pretty simple, but like the paper makes them all look kind of fancier than they are. It's kind of neat.
Very cool.
Seraphima, I know you can hear us and see us. Could you try and do your best to describe what you have in your hand? You can do it via, yeah, I guess you'll have to do it via chat box. And while you're chatting and typing in the chat box, we can head over to Julie, and we'll come right back to you. So Julie, what we're doing is, welcome Julie, by the way. What we're doing is we're just sharing what you have, really, what's in front of you. Something yellow, something crazy or cute. So you're welcome to click the unmute button.
And I unfortunately can't hear Julie. I don't know if anyone else can.
Hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
you can now.
Is there anything in front of me?
Anything yellow, anything wacky, weird, cute. It can even be your animal, whatever you've got. Feel free to share.
My sewing beads I have in front of me.
Your sewing beads? Oh, lovely. What are you making?
A pair of earrings.
Oh, beautiful. Well, it looks like Seraphima wrote, and she said she has this woodcraft yellow bee with a missing antenna, which I have had for a while now, and it's hanging in our office. The bee is holding a sunflower. Thank you, Seraphima, for sharing. I actually have two things. I have a stress ball, which is blueberry, so and I have this beautiful plant, well, actually dying plant. It's been in this office for 10 months, and I've been at home most of the time, so it's withered quite badly. So thank you everyone for sharing. And at this time, just for sharing laughters, that's what we really needed. But Jenny, you are welcome to take over.
Awesome, thank you. I'll quickly share my little item here. This is a barnacle. I don't know if you can really see it well. That is grown on top of a float. That grew in that on top of the float and was found upside down in the Gulf by my friend who was who not too long ago passed, but she worked on a fishing boat for a long time in Alaska. And I thought that was a really good visual of resiliency and growing through adversity, that no matter how much restraint someone puts against you, you're still going to try to grow. So that's a reminder for me about positive youth development and resiliency. And I like to share that with folks, as it also reminds me to keep going when things are really hard. The best beach find, absolutely. Yeah. So for now, and I know folks are challenged with bandwidth and all sorts of things, and we're just going to make this what we can. But I do encourage you, if you can, to use the reaction buttons if you hear something you like, or if you hear something that's challenging, and then to also use the chat function as much as you can. Bobby, you have one of those too? We're like barnacle buddies. That's awesome. Wow, I just had, that was a mind blow for the day. Okay, so yeah, use your interactions as much as possible. If I need to slow down, let me know to slow down. And I also, during presentations, I always turn my self view off. So if I get off camera and you're not seeing me anymore, I'm trying to stay in front of my camera and look at you and look at slides, but I don't like to have my face distracting myself while I'm presenting. So let me know too if I get wacky. Speaking of wackiness, the first thing that I was gonna do is just to share a quick video, just to kind of go over what we're gonna be going over today. And I know that might be challenging for folks with bandwidth, so I'm gonna do my best here to share. And this notably too is a very compliant teen, and not all teens are compliant with every single thing we're doing. So, or every single thing we're asking of them. So as I go and share this, just know that this is best case scenario. So 1 second here. Are you able to see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hey Chris, can we talk before you go out with your friends tonight?
Yeah, I guess.
I know it can be really hard to ignore texts while you're driving, and I know how much you care about yourself and your friends.
Yeah, I know.
So what do you think you could do to not text and drive?
I don't know, maybe not look at my phone?
Have you ever thought about maybe putting it in the glove box or turning it on Do Not Disturb?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So what do you think you could commit to tonight when you're out with your friends?
I'll put it in the glove box.
Okay, that sounds great. All right, well have fun and don't forget to text me when you get there.
Okay. Thanks, Mom. I'll text you, but not while driving.
Okay. Just to get us kicked off and just show you a little bit about the partners that that we work with at Possibilities for Change. The creator of this work is Dr. Jennifer Salerno. She is a family nurse practitioner, nurse, and has a doctorate in that work, and has used a lot of this strategic interactions in her risk assessment in a clinical setting, and has done some studies around that, and also uses it in her day-to-day life with her children. So because I just needed to mention that this is an evidence-based intervention if you are concerned about evidence. And so we're just going to do at this point, just to let you know, there are some specific, and I'm going to share my screen here in just a moment, some specific reasons why we do the things we do, or how we format these workshops. And really it's all about scaffolded learning, and being able to take a moment to how we're meeting together today in a virtual space, which is not the usual space. We're usually meeting together and talking one-on-one. So things are different in this day and age. You know, like I'm talking to a computer screen, and I know because of bandwidth, it's, you know, I don't see many people's faces. So it's a different way of learning, and I want to appreciate the willingness you all are taking to learn in this different way. And then as we go forward as well, to just, you know, take notice of how you're feeling. If you're missing something or if you need a break, just to be able to take care of yourself during this time. And also take care of your brain and your spirit. So if there are things that are not meshing with your practices or how you think and feel, bring those up, because my idea of doing this work is that we're all working together to create a very large, strong web of supportive adults for young people in Alaska that are really able to step up and take onus and ownership of their role as a supportive adult, but also to feel prepared when they get in situations where the conversations are really hard. And so this is just, like I said, additional tools that we can be using throughout this time. We'll also be learning together over the course of 3 weeks. So I ask that you do your workbook and book reading before you come to the classes, so we can really focus on honing the skills and practicing the skills that you learn in the workbook, so we can kind of build on the learning and on the skills and on your own experiences. So we'll be using the workbook a lot. And so you'll see this up in the right-hand corner. They'll usually have page numbers associated with it on the slides. And I'll call your attention to that because I will be asking you all during skill development what your responses were in the workbooks. The other thing just to note is like a parking lot or a boat harbor. If there, because we have a small amount of time together, if there are things that you want to ask about, if we could leave the additional components to the end, if it's a quick clarification question, great. And then if there are specific things that you want to chat with me about after, I can be available for about 15 minutes after. Although I did not clarify that with you in advance, Laura. But just to let you know that I can make myself available after if you need some clarification questions. So the other component is just that I normally do group agreements. And I don't know if you've had examples of group agreements that you've done with youth, but really what this is like a social contract for the best learning for everyone. These are youth derived group agreements, things that youth that I have worked with have come up with. And so what do you guys, what do you all think some of these might mean to you? Any ones that stick out?
I'll be brave and go. I think the stand up, stand back might be kind of about bullying. So maybe stand up, but take a step back from the situation so you don't get yourself in a vulnerable position.
Yeah, that's definitely an application of that rule. It's also about doing what you just did and stepping up when you may feel a little bit nervous, or stepping back. Like if I'm talking the entire time and I want to hear someone else's voice, I'll take a step back. But very applicable to that, the bullying scenario as well. Yeah. Other folks, any ones that stick out?
I'd like to add on to that stand up, step back. I kind of picture it as allyship, I guess. Standing up with someone, but stepping back for them to speak.
That's great. Absolutely. Allyship. I like that. Anyone else?
I'm gonna keep piggybacking on the stand up, step back because I came up with something totally different, which was that if you're a person who speaks up a lot, then hang back and give somebody else a chance. And if you're a person that generally doesn't speak up, to stand up and speak and try it out.
Yeah. And that's why we go over these rules, because not everyone defines rules the same way or agreements the same way. Anyone else?
I think the "don't yuck my yum" is just a funny phrase, and I love that because I was recently thinking about this, but I like that shortened version of it. I think of it as, you know, if you're trying to support someone and they tell you about something and that's not your ideal version of reality, the least you can do is support them in what makes them happy, even if that's not what make you happy. That's how I see it.
Yeah. Absolutely. This is huge when it comes to everything in a teen's life, from love to music to decisions about friends. And it's really one of the most pivotal things, I think, in this work that we do as well, just to be able to say, like, to kind of check my fixation on fixing, or to check my need to write, the writing reflex. So really important as we move forward, how challenging it can be to do that. And then to also kind of understand what motivates people, that yum, whatever is their motivation, kind of listening to understand. Absolutely. Any other folks want to share? Maybe like on the Vegas rule? Go ahead, Bobby.
Yeah, I was just going to say the one that stood out to me was the stay engaged and focused. Like if a teen or even your partner or somebody is talking about a topic that you don't really engage with, but you can still stay engaged with the conversation and just go along with them, kind of what Sabrina was saying with the "don't yak my yam," like don't burst their bubble, basically.
Yeah.
So
I kind of
like
like
that one.
yuck my yam better than I like don't yuck my yum, to be honest. I might have to change that. That's awesome.
Oops, I changed it.
No,
My
it's
bad.
good. I like it. So any other thoughts or comments?
I kind of thought that the Vegas rule, my first thought that it was referencing the vagus nerve and that we should be doing deep belly breaths to calm ourselves and stimulate our vagus nerve. But I think that maybe on second thought, it might mean what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
So yes, and kind of challenging too, like this scenario, like it's being recorded, so this rule is kind of flexible, but at the same time, in breakout rooms while you're talking with one another, it totally means that like what you're talking with each other about in your breakout rooms is your stuff. And you're going to learn from that stuff. But the idea is that you're going to take what is learned and not what is heard. So if that makes sense, like you're allowed to be able to share some things with other people about how you interacted or what strategies were working well for you. But maybe we don't talk about, that Tori determined that she was naive. Like we're not gonna bring other people's stuff, as a teen. But we're gonna maybe talk about how those conversations worked well for us. So that's that Vegas rule. Totally inappropriate from, the get-go. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But at the same time, that's kind of one of the things that works with youth. They bring it up. So just kind of like that privacy aspect, and that it's okay if you don't want to share. So that's the other thing too, is like when we ask you to share certain things and you don't have an answer, or if you don't feel comfortable sharing, just say, I have the right to pass. That's also another rule we can use too. And just to that staying engaged and focused, I wanted to come back to that too. I thought that your definition on, being not just engaged in the training, but also staying engaged and focused when you're having these conversations with young people and your families is huge and challenging. So thank you again for sharing that. And as far as digital distractions, I know I'll have my phone on in case there is, you know, an emergency with my child. But other than that, my ringer is off. My email is turned off for now, so I can stay engaged with you all. And it'll be on vibrate just in case I have an emergency.
And
Okay.
Jenny,
Yeah,
Jenny, I just wanted to add one more little thing.
please.
So as Jenny was saying earlier, during the breakout session, when we branch out into different virtual rooms for the activity portion, just know that our recordings will be paused. And so there'll be literally no recordings during that time. And that is the reason why we're doing that, is just to protect those sensitive information and the clients that you're working with, and to continue following the State of Alaska HIPAA privacy policy. So, and we just want to respect everyone in this room. That's really our intention, is to respect and promote that positivity. So, and then afterwards, when we come back to the main room, then we will go ahead and resume our recording. So thank you so much for your understanding.
Awesome. So all I ask when I work with youth is if we can agree to these group agreements. And if you do agree, then if you could give me a thumbs up, or if you have something to add, actually, before we do a thumbs up, if you have something to add or something that's missing that you wanted to bring up in this space, just so that we'll revisit this every time we chat for the next 3 weeks. Okay. Thank you, Bobby. Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Becca. So I just want to make sure that we're all in agreement with these. Tori and Leona, are you in agreement with the group agreements? Thank you, Tori. And is there anything, Leona, that you would change about the group agreements before we move forward? Okay, thank you. Sorry, I see your yes and no now. Much appreciated. Okay. So when we think about parent and supportive adult influence, sometimes adults think like, oh, it's all about, you know, their friends. But sometimes youth are really truly listening still. And we know from science and from studies that parent influence, especially family closeness and attachment, is associated with reduced substance use, a delay in sexual initiation and experiences, and fewer suicide attempts. So these are really important aspects of this idea of strengthening the work that we do as supportive adults. And then when we also think about the supportive adult relationship, we do have data that's associated with that looks at that decreased substance use, delayed sexual initiation, and fewer suicide attempts. So all the work that you're doing as those supportive adults, like we were talking about building that web, are the most important components of what we do together. And also separate, but also for ourselves. And we'll talk a little bit more about that and what that means too. Some of this work can be really hard, so especially we're thinking about reducing risk behaviors, the things that can impact young people's lives and other people's lives long term. And the real focus is on building that self-efficacy. And that's so hard when you know the right answer. Like my mom always used to say, like, I wish I could just open up your head and pour the answers in and close it up and ship you off, because it would make my life easier as a parent. And I didn't really get that until much later, until I became a parent. But like, yeah, you don't, I just told you that was going to hurt. So why would you touch the stove, you know? But really it's about building that self-efficacy. Like if you touch that, it might hurt you. And then having them learn some of those things is really hard for a parent and a supportive adult, because you don't want to see them get injured. The other point that I really like to talk about, and that we're in your first 6 chapters of the book and of your workbook, is this idea that young people are going through so many changes, and not just growing, but they're physically developing, they're cognitively developing, their emotional development is all over the place, but very limbic system focused. So very emotional, forefront experience, and then also developing sexually while also simultaneously taking on adult roles. Young people have a lot on their plate. And so when they're trying to figure out their life and where they fit in the world, it's just really incredibly challenging. And we know that not just physical changes with height and weight, but that teens are physically maturing faster and are treated older as they start to blossom physically. So when we think about that, also simultaneously with them getting new reasoning and thinking skills, and not just, like going back to 3 or 4-year-old kid kind of examples, but one day they could hate strawberries and 2 days later they would like strawberries. So finding that they're trying on new skills and adapting and learning, and one day they can completely reason with you, and the other day they can argue you under the table. So there's like this whole different development that happens over the course of a young person's life. That we refer often through this training about normal teen behaviors or normal risk taking. And I think that is a challenging topic, that young people are going to take risks because they're emotionally, cognitively, physically, and sexually supposed to take risks. But at the same time, we can help them understand the consequences associated with some of those risks and how to navigate some of those things as we move forward. And then, just back to that sexual development piece, sexual decisions are really up to teens. And we should really be able to discuss with young people early and often about what they want in a sexual relationship, what they want in a healthy relationship, and to be able to open up that conversation to really think and feel and help them understand through all this process is really challenging if you come from a place of maybe you've been victimized in the past, or maybe if you have a struggle, with being a parent of multiple people, and also just to be able to think about whether or not we have conversations about sexual development, is that going to make them want to have sex? And there is data out there too that says that no, talking about sex and sexual development and sexual health and relationships doesn't tell youth that yes, you should go have sex. So really being able to help young people walk through that level of development in their life, and feeling comfortable in that on your own right is a challenge and new and very important. The other component that I like to really remind folks of is that a lot of us start these conversations with I don't know where to start, or I start with where I don't want to be, which is what my parents were, or I really want to start building strong relationships, but I just don't know where to start with that. So some of those pieces are right here, just being able to talk less and listen more. Sometimes it really does encourage us to find the right place and the right time to have these conversations. And maybe it's not always sitting in a vehicle where the kid's behind you and you don't have to make eye contact. Maybe it's not just because you're only having conversation with them when they're doing something wrong. So really starting out with that positive piece, start talking more, or start listening more and talking less about what their interests are, what makes them happy, their opinion on a movie, their love of culture craft, and all of those kind of pieces. The other component that we will talk a lot through are not just strategies to use, but also strategies to build on maybe your values as a parent, and your strengths as a parent, and also connecting young people with other supportive adults that you trust. This giving information component before we move forward into this first activity, it can be challenging to think about whether or not we're supposed to, as parents, be the ones to give our youth all of the information. And if we have trust in other supportive adults, sometimes that makes that job much easier. So we're going to take a break here in just like 2 minutes, but I just wanted to, this idea of talking with and not at. If we could walk through what this sounds like a little bit. Does anybody want to read the item on the line on the right after I read an item on the left? And we can compare what that might sound like. So if I said, don't text and drive, how does that feel, or how does that sound from your perspective?
Were you saying you wanted to volunteer to help you read the other side?
Yes, but then I asked specifically, like, how does that feel first? And then I'll ask you to read it a different way. So if you are stepping up, you could answer how that way I said that makes you feel.
It makes me feel like someone's telling me what to do, and I don't like being told what to do in that way.
Right. Okay, so could you read the other side, please?
Yes. What would it take for you not to text while you are driving?
Okay. And how does that feel?
So much more open. So much more open.
Great. And it gives us the opportunity to open and have an open-ended question where we're moving from what my dad used to say is BIS, which is because I said so, and really opening up the door to just like, what would it take for you? And this maybe isn't the first step. Like we talk about opening up the conversation, feeling comfortable with each other, having respect for each other, finding the right time because it's on their terms, and an open-ended question. Awesome. Thank you, Sabrina. Okay, don't have sex. Who would like to tell me how that one feels?
That is making me feel like you're assuming that I am having sex or that I'm going to have sex without asking me first what my thoughts about sex are.
Awesome. Exactly. A command, an expectation. And how about having sex is a big decision. I care about you and hope that you'll wait until you are in a committed relationship.
Yeah, I think that's a bit better.
And how do you make it even better? What would you say instead?
I would say sex has the potential to be wonderful, and it also has the potential to be really detrimental. And I want you to have the best experience with sex, whatever that means to you. And if you ever feel like talking about it, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's oftentimes a lot of this, the way the book is written, is for parents and less for supportive adults. So there might be some statements in here that sound more like a values thing. So if you are not a parent, and that can seem kind of uncomfy. So we'll talk more about that, of how you can still have values as a supportive adult, but how to put it in a context that is more palatable to a kid that's not your kid. And simultaneously, even for parents, like this idea of having sex is a big decision. For some people, they want to wait until they're in a committed relationship. For other people, they want to wait until they're married. And for other people, they're not as concerned about the committed relationship as long as they're respected. What's important to you when it comes to sex? To have all these, a spectrum of values and expectations, but to understand a little bit more about where they're at. And all of that is really developmentally appropriate too, depending on where they're at. So always meeting youth where they're at. Thanks, Becca. All right, this should not be making you feel sad or stressed out. It's no big deal. Who wants to say something about that one? How does that feel?
That doesn't feel very well. It feels like you're not taking my feelings or emotions into consideration.
Right. Absolutely. And just not validating, not giving you any sort of like, oh, I heard what you said. Instead, it was like, your feelings don't matter. So how about this one, Leona? It's hard to deal with everything you have going on right now. What do you need in order to feel less stressed?
That makes me feel heard. Like, even if you don't understand where I'm coming from, it just feels a lot better.
Awesome. Great. And these are, like I said in the beginning, these are all tools and suggestions on how to have these, but you don't have to use these words exactly. If you say things a little bit differently, as long as you get the general feeling of talking with and opening up that conversation, opening up a door instead of just a window, or, instead of closing the window. Thank you for sharing, Leona. Why are you fighting with Lisa? How does that sound?
Judgmental?
Judgmental?
I can hear my teen saying this.
Yeah. And so how would we make it, what is the part of the sentence that makes it feel judgmental?
Maybe because you're not asking and you're just saying, why are you fighting with Lisa? It sounds, I don't know, if I were to say that to my teenager, that would be an argument.
Right. We'll talk exactly, Leona. We'll talk a little bit more about the why too. Why can sometimes be associated with blame, about automatically assuming that it's the fault of the person that you're talking with. And that why are you, it's like, why are you ... It can oftentimes be derived from some place of blame, or like, what's wrong with you kind of feeling. So that other side of like, tell me what you think happened with Lisa. How does that feel instead? Even though it's not a question.
You're giving them the option to talk. And if we're not asking them, then we're never going to know. Otherwise, we're just assuming. And that's why the why is, I feel like it's argumentative and it's not the best approach.
Yeah. All right, last one. Oops, go ahead. Sorry, did I interrupt someone?
Yeah, sorry. Just like also to add on that, taking out the why is also taking away like that blame. Like you're not blaming them or anything. You're just talking to them.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing. All right, this last one, and then we're going to take a break. We need to talk. I don't know why every time I say this one, I always want to put my hands on my hips, but that's kind of how it feels. Like, we need to talk. How would you feel if someone walked into your office or your house and said, we need to talk? How does that feel?
I feel like I'm in a world of
think back
trouble.
of all the.
Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you say you're in a world of trouble, Bobby?
No, I was gonna say I would think back of all the things that I could possibly done wrong in someone else's head mindset. I'm just like, I didn't do that.
Yeah. Automatically on the defense.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Totally. All right, Bobby, how does this one feel instead? I would like to talk with you without any distractions. When would be a good time today?
Exactly.
We're talking about on their terms, right?
I think that's a good one, but then at the same time, yeah, but then at the same time, it's too open and they could always, like the teenager or somebody else.
Yeah.
It has pros and cons to this. It's a good thing, but then it's also a way for some.
Uh-oh. I think we lost Bobby. Sound like there were some bandwidth challenges. We're going to keep going. And so what I would encourage you to do is to think about some of this context. Take a 5-minute break. Because I'm sure you all are going to be sitting a lot today, and this is only the beginning maybe of your day, I encourage you to get up, move your body. And if you are interested and you want some guided stuff, I can help you with the Archer. So if you want to take a 5-minute break, or you can stay here and I can instruct you on the Archer. You can also take a bio break and come back if you would like to for the last 3 minutes. So go ahead, please. And focus and attention, and to enliven your body and spirit. Has anyone heard of the Archer before? Okay. So if you were to stand hip width apart and your feet are flat standing, and bend your knees a little, just slight bend in your knees, not a squat, and then open up your chest. So first bring your shoulders up towards your ears, back like you're squeezing a pencil in between your two scapulas, and then bringing your shoulders down. That will give you the open chest opening. And then what you're going to do is pull one arm, your right arm or left arm, back like you're pulling backwards on the bow, and pushing forwards like this on the front, tensing all muscles, pulling your abdominal wall in, squeezing your booty and your legs all together. And then exhaling out and relaxing all of your muscles. And you do the same thing on the opposite side, bringing all of that strength and energy up from the floor of your feet, up and back down your body, on the back side of your body, pushing that bow and pulling backwards, tensing all muscles, kind of a 90-degree angle from your head. So 90-degree angle straight out. Big deep breath in, and then relax. Awesome. There is some really great work from the Capacitar Institute called the Capacitar Training, which really looks at all of the historical, indigenous, and long-term physical mindfulness exercises that many cultures have been doing for thousands of years, and bringing them into one place. And during trainings, especially for how little we move nowadays, because we're all sitting at our desks and doing all of this mind work, but really if our hips aren't engaged, if we don't have a moment to take a step back, our brains start to really tune out. So taking the opportunity to really build on those survivor frameworks and taking care of your body helps actually your emotional brain sustain as well. So I'm gonna put the Capacitar Emergency Toolkit in the chat box for you to review. And I'm sure you've, oh, sweet. Just saw your chat in there, Laura, thanks. I'm glad I'm referencing resources that you have. That's awesome. Fabulous. Okay, so back into it. What we're gonna do now is move to foundations. And the foundations of this work come from what we talked about a little earlier, which is this idea of asking permission and giving information simply, offering concern, and offering a menu of options and not directives. And these are hard. I think the foundation are not as hard as maybe the open-ended questions and reflections and all the things that we're going to be building on over the next few weeks. But this idea that there are obviously there can be some cultural differences, some religious differences, some different expectations when it comes to being a parent than maybe in this training that I offer. So I'm prepared here to acknowledge that not all of these efforts will work. Oh, I missed the baby picture. Wendy, I wasn't looking at your face. I missed it. Oh, give me that baby back. Is that your 4-year-old or 3-year-old? Which?
For a second. He's my 1.5-year-old. So this is Leo.
Hi, Leo.
He's trying to climb into mom's lap to have a snack.
Awesome. Hi.
Can you say hi?
Hi.
Okay.
Oh, so
Thank you
cute.
for sharing. Babes are so precious.
Mwah.
All right. So all these skills might not necessarily align with your way of life. So if you have different practices, please do share those as we're learning together. And not all strategies are going to work for every parent or supportive adult or for every teen. But some of this work is really about the foundations of how we engage in a conversation with someone about maybe something new or something that they maybe that they're interested in changing about their personal behaviors. So this idea of giving information is really important for a lot of supportive adults because there are a lot of you that actually really want to hear our opinions. And they'll ask you for those, like, what would you do if, or, you know, hey, they're going to tell you about something that maybe they would love your feedback on, but maybe they don't say it in a way that's asking for your feedback. And that's okay too. It's just about being prepared to hear those opportunities. And the key to remember, as we talked about before, is just remember that your teen is not necessarily receptacle for all of your knowledge. And then after about 15 to 30 seconds, they're going to phase out. So giving that information super simply is really important. And you can, if they don't know, like, remember in that video, he says, like, I don't know, not text and drive. It'd be like, yeah, have you thought about ways to not text and drive, like maybe putting it in the glove box, or so you're giving them a couple options that maybe they haven't heard about, or maybe a third option that they can decide and pick for themselves. These strategies can be useful to open up, for a teen to open up on not just hearing what you have to say, but that hearing that you're actually sharing with them as opposed to maybe passing judgment. So the first strategy we're going to talk about is this asking permission. So what are two benefits do you think might come from asking permission to engage with a youth in a conversation? Or have you asked permission before and felt something different out of a conversation?
Not necessarily with teens, but with other people in my life. I'm always trying to solve problems for people compulsively. That's just part of my personality. And my partner and I butt heads on this all the time, because a lot of times he's really not looking for advice. Over and over and over again. I'm not looking for advice. So I've learned to start asking permission to give advice before I speak up and be like, hey, let's solve this problem together. And I'm like, hey, are you interested in hearing my thoughts on this?
Spot on. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's the hardest part, is that we have that right, like we talked about before, that writing reflex, like, I can fix this problem for you, let me just tell you how to do it. And maybe they're not ready for that yet. So definitely asking permission to see if it's really an opportunity, especially if your teen hasn't, or the person, or your, husband, partner, hasn't even initiated the conversation and you're already trying to fix them, can be kind of challenging for the relationship, for sure. So we're looking at page 28 in your workbook about this idea behind asking permission. So what do you think about the strategy of asking permission? Difficult, easy, no problem? How many of you are parents and be like, I'm the parent, I don't need to ask permission?
So I do find sometimes when you ask permission, you kind of get shut down from, the kids. Like, no, I don't want to talk to you about this, or, no, I don't want to hear what you have to say. So sometimes, even though you have good meaning and you still need to, get the message across, you don't have the opportunity when you ask permission necessarily. But it's still important to, get them on board, I suppose, because otherwise they don't listen anyway.
Yeah, I think it's really challenging if you're like, okay, I'm asking permission, and then they've said no, and this is a big one, right? So why in the world would we give them an opportunity to shut us down? And then to remember through all of this that it's totally a normal teen behavior to want to vie for control. And so when we have this thought or feeling like, hey, I'm giving permission to engage in this, and even though you've given them permission to set the time and the date of when you want to engage with them, and they still say no, it's because they are really looking for that that control in the situation. So we know as parents to kind of that we look for those opportunities to get, our opinion in. Like, hey, this sounds like a very similar thing that I went through. Did you want to hear what I did in this situation? And even if they say no, and be like, okay. And I think Becca had mentioned earlier, be like, okay, I understand that you don't want to hear it now, but just know that later, if you do want to have this conversation, that we can have that. This is chapter 11, pages 28 to 29 in the workbook. So this, and the thought process too, is even if they're like, okay, if you don't want to talk about it now, that's fine, but we have to have this conversation because it deals with a safety issue, or because it's something that we need to discuss, when is a good time to do that? And if they never want to have the conversation, then that's a whole other, can of worms, so to speak. But definitely getting that, be like, I'm really concerned about you. We have to have this conversation. Let me know when the next time we can chat is in the next 24 hours, or 15 minutes if it's a dire situation. So I think the other component that's helpful through this is to really think about not just that it's about getting. It's them. We're all trying to vie for control in some sort of situation, and so to let go of that, and no matter what their response is, I always go back to what I did as a coach, and when I work with young kids too, is to Q-tip, which is to quit taking it personally, because a majority of the time it's not about you; it's totally about them, and then the more socially, emotionally in control of my own emotions as I can be, the better of a guide I can be. And that's really, really hard. I struggle with it still. And even though I keep telling myself and I have an acronym for it, it's still really hard. So just to be gentle on yourself during all of this. Supportive adults and parents can offer concerns about harmful decisions. They can also they also like to hear it when it's about positive things too. And teens do appreciate it when you worry about them. So they want to know that you care. And these are important components to remember as you're walking through it, asking permission, giving information simply, and offering concern. So this idea, it's really tempting to try to persuade, especially because persuasion can often lead to resistance. So it can be limited to certain circumstances. Like, I'm really concerned about your health, and this is why I'm limiting your phone use at night. I'm, really worried about you. You're stressed, and you're missing a lot of school. This could get in the way of everything you've been working for. So this is why, we're, turning phones off and leaving them in the kitchen, in a common space 2 hours before bed. So just knowing that sometimes mama does know best, or, sometimes a supportive adult really does have an answer for it. But when there is a significant amount of resistance to having them think about what they need, then knowing that is that persuasion and kind of punishment can be used, but it's just using it slimly. Giving a teen an option and permission to disagree with you is also really important for them, depending on where they are developmentally too, can be really helpful, especially if they're learning to try on different decisions. Like my mom, when I was younger, I was like, I'm not a kid anymore. And she's like, oh, great. Well, would you like to take on some adult roles? And I was like, yes, I would love to take on some adult roles. And she's like, okay, here's the electric bill. And so when I didn't pay the electric bill one month, the electric got turned off. And of course, that's a lesson learned that we can really think about, but I didn't really understand the impact of that until the electricity actually got shut off. So, and I think that those are long-term planning for a short-term statement and outcome. So that was the one part of my mom that I was she got me financially prepared, very much for life. So this may, sometimes there's that opportunity to disagree, and giving your teen the permission to have an opposing opinion doesn't necessarily mean that you're giving them permission to do whatever the hell they want to, or to not listen to your rules. Or, and thinking about in a supportive adult role, if there are rules at your club or rules somewhere else or expectations, that this is a similar process of asking permission, giving information simply, going through a menu of options, like you can either stay here at the club and not hurt people, or you can, not come back tomorrow until you have a discussion with the person's feelings that you hurt or the person you were aggressive with, etc. So that menu of options piece too is that basically there's more than one correct way to solve a problem, and that they might even have a better solution. So even if that third solution is like, hey, what do you think? These are the things that I have tried in the past. What do you think would work for you? But a majority of the time, people just don't want to be told what to do. And they are ready and willing to do whatever it takes to maybe change a particular outcome, especially when it comes to maybe friends. But for the teens, you don't necessarily need to explore the why, but you can provide that menu of options for them, and then asking them what their maybe third option would be. Or even, if they can't decide, picking a best option, having them pick the best option for them out of your menu is effective. So, do you have any questions about this, or anything that feels not right, or that you're confused about out of these foundations before we move forward? Okay. All right. Hearing none. So the next thing we're going to do is practice this. And we're going to get into groups here in just a minute. And we're going to go into a breakout room and practice giving information. and starting with the foundations that we have talked about. And we're giving you the opportunity to chat. And so what might be helpful, thinking for Seraphima, is if maybe Seraphima is with another 2 people, like that group of 3, as we break out. So I'm going to ask you to practice giving information based on these, and I'll put them in the chat box too. 1 second here. Just so you all can see it. And we're going to take 5 minutes, about 2.5 minutes each, to practice responding to 2 separate scenarios. I'm going to encourage you to be the teen, but to really be conscientious about how we actually behave. Doesn't necessarily mean that we need to impart that all teens are bad and they're all going to be give you pushback. But just think about where you might be, or a teen in your life, where they might be developmentally, what works really well for them. So thinking about that mindset, and not like, I'm going to be a teen, so I'm going to like close off and turn my body away and not listen to you, because we want to be able to give teens the best belief that they want good things for themselves too. So the first scenario is you're concerned about your teen's grades. And then the second scenario is spending a lot of time on social media. I'm going to type those in the chat 1 second. And then the second one, thanks so much, Laura, was the spending too much time on social media, or spending a lot of time on social media. Okay. So we're going to break out by like 2 to 3 people per room. And then you're going to be able to look at the chat box to remember your process. And then the subject is bringing up your concern about someone's grades, or that you're concerned about them spending time on social media. Okay. And at 2.5 minutes, actually, I'm going to give you 5 minutes each, instead of 2.5 minutes. I think we have time for that. So we'll give 5 minutes each, and at 5 minutes, I'll make sure to remind you in the banner, just to make sure you've switched partners. So you're going to be in that chat room together, and one person's going to say, hey, use those list of foundations based on the concern about grades. And then at 5 minutes, you're going to switch, and the second person is going to do the second scenario. Does everybody understand the rules of the game here, the guidance for the activity? If you could give me a thumbs up. And unmute maybe if you have any questions. Thank you. Thanks, Bobby. Okay. All right, so you're going to be asked to jump into a breakout room. And then when we ask you to come back, it's probably just going to automatically close, and then bring you back here. But if you want to come back before, you can go down to the bottom right-hand corner, and it'll give you 3 options. It'll give you an option to leave the meeting completely, to go back to the major breakout, like the main room, or to leave the breakout room, I think, is it'll give you 3 options. Don't leave the meeting completely. Hi, little guy. Hi. Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna pop into breakout rooms, and I might bop around in case you have questions. So if I show up, I'll be a fly on the wall, but you can let me know if you have any questions about the instructions. Okay? All right, here we go. Are you doing? Make time for that at the end. Thank you all again for your time, and we're a minute over, so I want to be respectful of you all and your time today. And I'll let this be our closeout today. Thank you all for all of the hard work you're doing and for showing up, not just today, but in always, in many days. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
And we'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. See you next week.
Bye.
Take care.
Fiona.
Serafima says thank you.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Bobby, did you get connected back up to audio? How was that for you, Wendy?
That was great. I really appreciate being invited to this. You know, I'm definitely coming from the parent perspective versus, the, Indigenous and helping youth. But I mean, I kind of feel like it'd be a great program to possibly start even with the school systems. I know that you've talked about that a little bit, and they probably have this program out there, but as like an involved or trying to be an involved parent, I think that this is just a really awesome forum to be able to be a part of. So I appreciate you answering the phone the other day early and inviting me to this. So, of
course. Yeah. Thank you. My
pleasure.
pleasure.
We'll see you next Thursday then.
All right, take care. I'll see you. Learned so much about you.
Thanks.
And getting to know you more. Bye-bye.
Bye.